All-Ireland football semi-final.
John, let me start about the championship so far, now that we've reached this crucial stage. What do you make of it? Has it been a good championship?
I would say that it has been interesting, Marty. There has been some good games in it, a few upsets and a few newer teams, if you like, winning a game or two. And I suppose the four best teams are in the semi-final, I would say. And I suppose at the end of the day, that's what you need at this time of year.
What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back now that you've asked the question. I can't really think of any outstanding games throughout the championship that really excited everyone. I mean, like Kerry and Cork started off the year down in Munster, and that wasn't a great game to watch. Up north, the big one with Tyrone and Donegal, while it was competitive, it wasn't great either.
I suppose it's about average. There's nothing that really sticks out, as I say, that really that would excite you. But at the same time, it's never any different. It's only now that I think any championship any year is defined by from the semi-finals and finals.
Cork threatening, and it's Colm O'Neill who finishes from close range.
Cork have been favourites from a long way out. Do you still think they're the form team?
They don't know what their best team is, but I certainly think that they're, the best equipped team to win.
And Donegal have beaten Kerry. Fantastic victory by Jim McGuinness and his team.
I prefer to see Donegal win. I'd love to see Donegal win the All-Ireland. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think Cork will be too big and powerful for them.
The last time prior to that they played was in All Ireland quarter-final some years ago, and they conceded 127 to Cork, and people said, that's grand, that happens in Donegal. McGuinness came in, he changed all that.
I'd go with Cork by 3 points. Unfortunately for Donegal, I think next year they'll have another year's strength and conditioning under their belt. They might get another player, develop their system a little bit. I think Cork will just be that little bit too strong for them.
If there's issues during the match, I think that Conor Conan has probably more ammunition to deal with it maybe than Jim McGuinness, but I can see this Donegal team down the road winning in All-Ireland.
I think Cork could have structured a very well peak for the Kerry game and then reorganise themselves or whatever. So I think their timing is everything is pointing towards Cork for another final.
12 points the margin, and Mayo victors.
So who will their opponents be?
From a Mayo perspective, obviously they have grown and matured over the last couple of years. Again, developed a very good defensive system. But I think one of the big factors, obviously, is Andy Morden's loss.
There's very little hype around Dublin about Brosnan. Quite people, in some ways, almost negative about them, and I think it's set up beautifully for them. I mean, if they had been waltzing through into the All-Ireland semi-final, that's when the danger would be. It doesn't matter how you get there.
I give Mayo a great chance in this game. I'd nearly tip Mayo. I think they play in O'Shea full forward, and he's a very good full forward. Moran would be a huge loss. But having said that, I give Mayo a great chance.
It was absolutely diabolical kind of championship in my view, and then Mayo, they can only win what's put in front of them, and fair play they did that. But then they were up against Down, who were absolutely terrible. I mean, Down haven't produced it in 2 years.
Absolutely devastated, these Mayo players. Kerry are All-Ireland football champions 2006. They have destroyed Mayo.
Do you think this time, on this occasion, that Mayo are mentally strong enough to take on the All-Ireland champions?
We've thought that every single time since 1951. I don't think it's fair to hang around the necks of this present team, if you like, the history of the past. And people like Gerard Cafferty, Keith Higgins, these guys are winners. They're natural winners. The thing about Dublin as well, and this is one of the reasons that Mayo don't fear them, is that if you like, all the hype which will be there now for Dublin, but there'll be a huge Dublin contingent, and if they're not actually 3 or 4 points ahead with 10 minutes to go, all that pressure, as we saw in 2006, turns back on Dublin.
Chance, scores! Andy Moran! Mayo have beaten Dublin in the All-Ireland football semi-final.
Mayo haven't won an All-Ireland, in so long, and they have this reputation. I think it doesn't make it easier.
We're conditioned now. We're told that there's such psychological conditioning going on of all the players now, of all teams. Club teams are different perhaps, but even club teams, we're told that that's all in the past now because they're all psychologically.
I wouldn't pay too much attention to those fellas you get in there.
I'm just making
my experience.
So Martin Browning, who's going to win, Mayo or Dublin?
Dublin are going to win. I think Mayo without Andy Moore and Conor Mortimer missing as well, whatever the circumstances, that's 2 forwards gone, and I think Dublin are stronger on the backup that they have, and that could be crucial.
Colin?
The Dubs will probably thank me for this the night after the match, but I'm going for Mayo.
Going for Mayo. So we've split camp for the second semi-final. Okay, John O'Mahony, there you go. You're now in this position.
No,
Casting votes.
I'll say very simply, Marty, if Dublin bring their A game to Sunday, they can win it. If they don't, Mayo will win it. Simple as that.
That's a politician's answer.
Yeah, and a very good politician's answer.
Will they bring
The right
the
answer
game?
is always the right one.
All right then, so lots of talking points there. We'll look at the Cork-Donegal match maybe first. And Kevin, we asked each of you to pick out somebody who you think could make an influence and a big impact on the match. You've gone for Aidan Walsh.
Yeah, the player I've gone for Des is Aidan Walsh. I think this year in particular he's shown that he's grown up as a footballer. We all know he's a good fielder. But this year I think he's brought a lot of power running and strength and pace and stamina to the Cork team. And I think one of the things I suppose that Donegal have encountered most of the time is a strong type of runner to break the first line of defence. And Aidan is that year or two older. He has 2 feet, left and right. I think he's scored goals at both this year. And the one thing that sticks out for me this year is that his decision making as he's on the ball has been very, very good. You'll see him running, he continuously lifts the head looking up left and right to see what's available to him. And if it's not available, he'll take you on. And you can see in the clip here the power and strength he had to break that first line. I think that may be something that will definitely help Cork maybe get over the line next Sunday.
His athleticism is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the ease that he seems to be coasting through is the aspect that stands out the most from him, and he really has improved this past few years in his distribution, and I think he seems to be becoming more. He's growing into a leadership role within that squad, and I think he's going to be someone that Cork's going to be pinning their hopes on for the next few years. Right,
now the man you've gone for to watch in the Donegal camp also has athleticism as one of his big key points.
Yeah, I've picked out Mark McHugh as I suppose the focal point for everything that's good about Donegal this past 2 years. You'll see from the clips coming up here, it seems to be all over the pitch. Here he is coming back from half forward, picking up break balls. You'll then see him in his own full back lane picking up break ball again from Neil McGee, and he just uses it simple. He always seems to be the right place, the right time for them, and he's the link man from defence to attack for them. But as you see here, he just slips up in the blind side, busts through, taps over a simple score. He just always seems to do the simple thing well for them, and I think he's a man that Jimmy McGuinness has placed serious faith in, and he's obviously repaying.
We were talking earlier about how do you counteract this. Now, Aaron, you had an interesting theory on how you could possibly counteract Mark McHugh's role.
Yeah, well, do you know, this time last year in the All-Ireland semi-final, Donegal or Dublin played with the sweeper, allowed Mark McHugh to, I suppose, dictate the game for a large part. I'd be very interested to see what would happen next weekend, for instance, if he lanes out centre half forward and Paddy Kelly lanes out a centre half back in him. If Paddy Kelly moved up the field with him and was an outlet at all times for early direct ball from the Cork defence, he has the vision, the pace, the scoring ability to really punish Donegal, and I think it's an aspect of the game that I don't think we've seen someone really go for, and I think in an All-Ireland semi-final next week, I'd love to see what would happen if it did come
It's an interesting scenario, but it's not going to happen, is it? Cork aren't going to do that, Kevin.
At this stage, it is, I suppose, Ireland semi-final, you have to look after your own plans as much as everybody else, and I take on board what Aaron is saying. But for me, the big thing is getting that ball delivered very quickly before for Cork, before we'll say the blanket defence is put up there. And as I said to you, if you're going to carry the ball into the challenge, you're going to have to make sure you get through that challenge, because if you're stopped up, it allows the likes of McHugh and those boys get back to do their job. And as we've seen Donegal all year, that's where they're best at, is when they actually break it down and come out at pace from their own defence, and they're hard to stop if that happens.
And do you think Cork do have the ability to get the ball in that early?
I do. The wing backs come forward fairly quickly. They've got ball winners inside. Aidan Welch can go to full forward, as he's done numerous times this year. Nicholas Murphy's inside. They're good ball winners inside, but the ball must go in early. And that's
so is that a verdict for Cork then in that one?
It's going to be tough, but I would go slightly with Cork. Looking at the bench that come on the last day. 5 brilliant subs to bring in. You know, if it's not working on the day, there's moves, there's options there, and you know, I'd slightly go for Cork.
All right, what about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I would be the same as Kevin on it. I think they probably are a few years further down the lane than what Donegal are. It really all depends on how they start though next week. If Donegal get ahead next week, it's going to be really hard for Cork to break them down, because they're going to be chasing the game against a team that are a lot wiser than what they were this time last year. And the first 10-15 minutes is going to play a big part in this game next week. And if I've been honest, I would think, that Cork would be the favourites going into it, but I don't expect there to be much between the two teams.
All right, then, both of you going narrowly for Cork then. Let's look at Dublin Mayo. It's a couple of weeks away, I know. We asked you to pick somebody on the Mayo side, Kevin, who we should watch out for.
Yeah, I've picked Kieran McLaughlin here. He's one of the ball-winning, we say, break winners around the midfield area. A really good worker. You'll see him popping up in every area of the field, a little bit like McHugh in the earlier clip. But you know, all the midfielders around that area will be putting ball on the ground, and his vision is very, very good. He passes the ball with left and right hand into space, and you know, he has scored on both feet this year as well. But the big thing for him is he's working. He never ever stops working. Not the biggest in stature, but just he's a huge heart, and makes the other forwards tick.
What about the fact? We see his finishing there, but it's his getting on the ball and his use of the ball. You've gone for someone on the Dublin team who's a bit similar, that they use the ball so well, Aaron.
Yeah, I've picked out Alan Brogan as one of the main men for Dublin. I think he was really missed last game against Laois. I think it's only now that you've seen the true value of what he is to the Dublin team. As you'll see from the clips here, he's their outlet man. He's always available along the half-forward line and midfield, and as you'll see from this one in particular, he never panics. He always just waits until the time is right. His head's up every solo, and he gives a quality ball into Bernard. That's a 14-yard point tapped over the bar, and it gets Dublin moving. As you'll see from the next few clips, right or left foot, if he's anywhere around the edge of the D, he'll have a go. He's direct, he'll take his men on, as you see here, and his fitness next week, I know he is an injury doubt at this stage. He has 2 weeks now to recover, but he's one of the main men, and obviously he's the current footballer of the year. It's probably goes without saying that he's a player that Dublin's really going to need to be informed.
You know all about Mayo and Connacht football, and we've heard it's been so long since they've made that breakthrough. Is this Mayo team, though, still behind Dublin in terms of their progression?
I'm not so sure, Des. You know, I suppose last year, going to London and stuff like that, they got an early kick to maybe drive them on to where they came to last year, beating Cork in the quarter-final. You know, they've been in the last 2 out of 3 league finals. They're right up there for the last 2 or 3 years. I just think, you know, back to Aaron's point, the 2 Brogans for me the game against Mayo are huge. I'm not so sure that they're firing on all cylinders, and if they're not coming back to where they were the last 2 summers, I think they could be in trouble.
How would you counteract the Brogans?
It's very hard. It all depends on the quality of ball that goes into them. In fairness to the 2 boys, they're that good, and it's not just them. You know, Kevin McManaman's really come through this year. Jeremy Connolly, we've seen what he can do whenever he hits form. So it's hard. It's the quality of ball that goes into them, and that's when the pressure needs to be on. Once the ball's in with them, is really nearly a damage limitation.
So a quick verdict then, Dublin?
Yeah, I think Dublin just again. I would imagine it's going to be another close affair, but I think again they're just maybe a few years more experienced, and I think the loss of Andy Moran is going to be huge to Mayo. Right. He's their leader, he's their captain, and he's the go-to man up front for them, and I think it's going to be a big blow without him.
And for you?
For me, I think there's the big problems for Mayo. We're 2 corner forwards all year. They've been chopping and changing. Conroy had a very good game the last day. Now putting Andy Moran on top of that, it's a full line inside that. You know, there's maybe a little bit of hope, more than factual evidence that they can go on and win it. But I think, you know, if Dublin slow it up, Mayo are very, very good at getting 3 or 4 bodies around the person on the ball, as good as I've seen all year in the Championship. So it all depends on how that goes.
You're not writing them off? No.
I'm not writing them off, but I just think maybe with Andy Moran missing, that Dublin may sneak it.
All right then, okay, thank you for that, lads. So Dublin